Good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here. It is 7 o'clock. This is the Urbanna Town Council budget and water rate hearing, as well as our work session. And I'm going to call the roll. Marjorie Austin. Here. Larry Tuning.
Here.
Who are you? Bill Goldsmith. Mary Hansen.
Here.
Bill Smith will be absent, and I was told that Mr. Holberg will be here, and I'm here. We also have with us our town attorney, Andrea Rard. Thank you. Our zoning guy, Roy Keim.
The zoning guy.
Martha Rodenberger, our clerk, and our treasurer, Michelle. And Garth is zooming in because he can hear us. Okay. Are you there, Garth? I'm just going to assume he's there. Okay.
Yes.
Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Everyone up here, you have the agenda in front of you. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Okay, any discussion? All right, let's take a vote. Marjorie?
Yes.
Larry?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Okay. We will now start public hearing ordinance 2022-02. And this has to do with the water rates and tax rates. So Roy, are you taking the lead on this?
I am going to talk about the water rates, and Councilman Goldsmith will talk about the real estate rates.
Okay.
The water rates for the town of Urbanna were increased last January 1st, 2020, and that was the first time in 11 years. A water and waste rate report is prepared annually by Draper Allen Associates, and USDA data was used at the time to prepare that increase. That report is produced annually, and it's used by water and waste treatment systems in Virginia to provide indications of the trends in water rates. This annual report is a good source of information for rates across the water service providers in the state. At the time of the last increase, the Water Committee committed to reviewing rates on a yearly basis. In 2020, the report was delayed by COVID, and both the 2020 and 2021 report were used to ascertain the rate required to be provided for infrastructure upgrades, new maintenance, a new well for our current system. As construction costs have increased substantially over the last 2 years, a 4% increase in 2020 and a 4% increase, 4.5% in 220 and a 4% increase in 221, according to the Draper report, were combined to give us our best estimate for the proposed rates for the town's water system. Again, the rates will be reviewed annually to make sure that our customers aren't hit with a big surprise. The current rates for in-town water are $39.70 for the first 6,000 gallons and $3.69 for each 1,000 after that. The proposed rate, going up to 8%, would be in town $43.07 for the first 6,000 gallons and $4 for each 1,000 gallons after that. out of town, the current rates are $76.57 for the first 6,000 gallons and $7.37 for each 1,000 gallons after that. The rate would go up to $83.08 for the first 6,000 gallons and $8 for every 1,000 gallons. Those are reflected in the 8%. Just in comparison, if you look at what people are going to be paying for the Middlesex system, they're going to be paying for a small meter, like the ones most of ours are, would be $90 per month, and for the first 60,000 gallons, and then $10.
For the first 6,000.
6,000.
Yeah, for the first 6,000, and then $10 additional every 1,000 gallons. So we are still, even with our increase, substantial. Certainly for in-town people, we're a lot less than Middlesex. And for out-of-towners, we are still low. We've got a bunch of money that's going to be needed to upgrade the wells. We've got line protection, so we really need to keep these prices current. And that's about it.
And something, if I can note it, that is in conjunction with what you were talking about, when we were looking for funding for the current replacement well, one of the places, I think it was Tara Delaney with USDA, was concerned because she said that our rates weren't high enough to get us into a position for certain funding, and that we needed to show sustainability, and they wanted to see a rate that was, I can't remember what the parameter was, but we were significantly lower than what they required to meet those funding standards. And when she looked at our balance sheet and saw where we were, then she realized that we were okay. But the bottom line is we're lower than most communities with respect to water, because of, well, maybe it's because we haven't done anything in so long that we need to replace the lines, but we're starting to play catch up and construction costs are going up. But I thought it was an interesting note that we actually didn't have rates high enough to qualify for some of the funding.
But we took care of that last year.
Well,
Right.
well, no, we still wouldn't meet those requirements.
Well, then how did we get,
Because we qualified for some things, but not others. That's what I'm saying. There were certain avenues that were not available to us.
my understanding was that we met the criteria last year.
We met the criteria for the funding that we got,
But not for the big funding.
but not for some of the other stuff and grants.
Well, that should have been told to us last year, Bill.
It was.
It was.
It absolutely
No,
was.
it wasn't. One told me.
Yes, but anyhow.
Larry, the
We
fun,
we had that survey
Survey
to
and
see what the mean
Exactly,
household.
But they told us we were all right when we raised it last year. That's what I understood.
Well, and
I would have suggested we raise it more last year. So what you all are saying is wrong. They didn't say that. If they'd said that, I would have told them to raise it more.
May I ask a question? It looks to me like the 8.5% includes the tax increase for last year. If it
what
was,
we're-
if it was
because we
4.5
didn't-
for 2020.
because we didn't do it again.
Exactly. So
Because
now
we
we're
didn't do
doing-
it again for 2 years, we're playing
So now we're
catch
doing
up.
Now we're doing-
And there will be a Draper-Aden report that will come out for 2022 that we don't know where it's going to be. But my bet is with the cost of everything that we're always going to be a half step behind, but we use that as our marker, and also as a marker the rates of like Middlesex County Water Authority as well, to make sure that we're doing right by the region, if you will.
We have competitive rates.
We
Very
have competitive rates.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a comment in response to Larry's point.
Go ahead.
Larry, the funding that we were approved for was a USDA loan, And so we were borrowing money, whereas what we were trying to do was get some kind of grant funding.
Right.
And so the grant funding is what's sensitive to the rates that we have.
We didn't even qualify for USDA funding is what the county and Middlesex Water Authority told us when they took the two of us at a time, if you recall that. And we went into a meeting. You went in and I went in. We went in two at a time. This was 3 years ago.
I don't remember that, but that's okay.
Yeah, but in fact we did. So it's kind of a moot point.
Yeah.
What's mute about it? I mean,
Well, we got the financing.
we got the
we-
USDA.
Right, we have
That's what-
USDA funding.
But I don't think we would have qualified for the grant funding unless our mean average income was low enough, and it wasn't low enough. So
Right,
that was a bar that we can't do anything about.
that was what the income study was
Right,
about, yes.
Right.
Right. So, I mean, we couldn't do anything about that.
So we didn't qualify for the grants, but we
And-
did qualify for a
Right,
a
and-
good,
Low interest rate
And to
loan.
bring it back
Low
around,
interest
we've
rate
sort of
loan.
gotten distracted. I brought up something that's confused, but the bottom line is, we still have very competitive rates. We're always playing catch-up with this, but we have a guesstimate that hasn't been updated of $7 million worth of projects we could do in terms of line improvement. And 8 years from now, we're going to need to drill another well to come into compliance for the Department of Environmental Quality.
okay. So this is our hearing. Do we have any other questions or discussions about that? I am told that we can go ahead and vote to pass this.
Yes,
Well-
Mhm.
once the public hearing is open and closed,
Mhm.
the council can vote to approve ordinance 2022-02.
Now, do we do both, or do we?
Well, no, let's do one
them
at a time.
One at a time.
Yeah,
Okay.
so
You may do both.
we're
We
just going to
have
do the water.
Do the real estate rates as well.
No, that's
Yeah.
all in one ordinance, 2022-02.
Okay,
It's all one document.
all right, so go ahead and,
So,
go ahead with that.
when it comes to, as everyone I'm sure is aware at this point, the county has reassessed the properties.
That's the
That's
23rd.
that's a different
That's what
subject.
he was, that's what he was
That's what I was asking.
That's on June 23rd.
He's gonna talk about this, right, the tax rates.
right.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yes?
Yes, go ahead.
The previous rate was 23 cents per $100 of value on the assessment for real estate. The county did a reassessment. There have been significant increases. The one that's the easiest one to see is over the last 2 years, we've gone from $45,000 for refuse pickup, including recycling, to now $91,000 with no recycling pickup. And if you look at the budget that's going to be presented, there's really, with the rate that we have, we're trying to accept, which is decreased to 21 cents, there's no slack in this budget. And I realize that there's an increase in, Mr. Tuning discussed this as the last one to try to find the 2 cents, because the amount of income is going up, what was it, to about $25,000, I think. But that doesn't even mitigate the change in the trash collection costs. And so really, we're getting squeezed out of the ability to do things, because the funds just aren't there with the inflation. And this budget was put together before 8.5% inflation. Anyhow, to go over the actual data, real property current rate is 23 cents per hundred of the assessed value, and we're proposing 21 cents for the per $100 of assessed value. Personal property currently is 37 cents per hundred, and we're keeping that assessment the same.
One of the threats that we considered to the budget is that that meals tax may not be as much as we've gotten used to seeing. And we're used to seeing meals tax rate, which incorporates some restaurants which have closed down. And we don't know how new ones coming online are going to do to replace that. So there's some little softness there that we're hesitant to, let go or not recognize by an increase because you just don't know whether that revenue is going to be there next year. The other thing is currently we're leasing this building, and long term, the strategy is to hopefully at some point purchase it and use the rent income to cover the mortgage. All right? So at some point, it will be closer to cash neutral, but right now we have to deal with the fact set that we have in front of us. And so there's some challenges.
Right.
Where is the COVID money? Where is that?
It's, do we ever get the second tranche?
We haven't gotten that. We're due to get it within 3 or 4 months.
And when you look at sales tax, right, that's supposed to come in, and the county announced it at their meeting. County also announced that sales tax was going up. And as I understood it, I may be wrong, our sales tax is not tied to the sales tax that we get from the town of Urbanna. Our sales tax is tied to Middlesex County sales tax.
That's correct.
That is correct.
Yes, sir.
So there's a possibility that's going up too. I don't know how much, but to count on what Steve is saying, it's always a negative to the public, Steve. And I don't want to be critical, but you'll always, when you're raising taxes, always say, well, it may be, well, I'm saying there may be some positive things too.
Right,
Standpoint of that.
and those are all being taken into
yeah, we're
consideration
taking-
I'm
because
sure
they're,
you thought of it.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
You
And,
took the penny off, right?
well, from the old rate, it's 2 cents down. In terms of the current, but I know what,
I know
yeah,
you didn't do
but
it.
yeah, no.
The answer to your question
The
is
answer,
no.
your question is the taxes are going up a little bit,
Did your
yes.
finance committee consider it? Did you even look at it?
Yes,
We did.
yes.
What's happened is the assessed value's gone up, but the tax rate's gone down from 23 cents to 21 cents, so that we're trying to mitigate the increase in the assessed value
Correct.
Right.
By raising taxes 2 cents.
by lowering the taxes
No,
2 cents.
By
But in,
raising taxes 2
Instead of,
cents. You're lowering
instead
the
of
rate.
23.
If,
yeah,
Please let the public understand they're getting a 2-cent tax increase. Am I right?
yes, because of the assessed value increase.
And that the county was wanting to raise it to 23 cents, which would be a 4-cent tax increase.
What does the county have to do with it?
Wasn't that the 23 cents that we were?
no,
dealing with?
23 cents was our old rate.
It was our old rate. Oh, I'm
Yes.
sorry.
Yep,
Okay,
yep.
my
We
mistake.
reduced our rate.
So we
but-
reduced our rate,
We
Right.
reduced our
The-
rate,
the
but it's on a
impact-
higher.
The impact
Yes.
because of the
Number.
assessment,
higher assessment.
because of the assessment increase. And that's what Larry keeps going back to, is the fact that there will be an increase of out-of-pocket costs to the taxpayer.
Yes.
And, it depends on what your individual assessment is. If your assessment
Also true.
went up, you're gonna be paying more. If your assessment went down, which is relatively unlikely,
Yes.
Yeah.
That is correct. You're right.
It's the law of averages.
law of
Some properties may not have
Somebody
it
may go up 30%, somebody may not go up
Right.
at all.
Yeah.
because of where they are, whether they're on the waterfront or not. There's a variety of factors that come into play. So
Right.
anyway,
What's assessment? I mean,
yeah, but it's an average assessment increase. You can't apply that to every single property.
no, you can't, but you don't have to prove a 2-cent tax increase on that. I mean, I'm not gonna vote for a 2-cent tax increase, I'm sorry. I don't guess it matters, but
That's your prerogative.
that's
Right.
exactly right.
All right.
That's why I'm here.
All right.
Okay, so any other comments or
That's-
questions up here? We'll entertain any questions or comments from anybody here. You want to do that in the general public hearing, or you want to have a specific question for this?
Yeah.
I have not heard that you formally opened it
I'm going to formally open the public hearing.
on ordinance 2022-02, which has the water rates and taxes.
Yes.
Yes.
So,
I'd just like to ask a question. A few
van thing going on, a guy sued the town. That tax rate went up 5%, right there?
It's more than that.
More than that. Why we keep going up? What's happened to all that money? We never get it back to the town and found.
Billy, we need you-
It did come back 1%, right?
We lowered it by 1 penny. Barbara was on
But you
council.
still
Yeah.
got 4% that's still there.
4
So
cents.
has anybody taken it into consideration?
We're still dealing with yearly inflation. So our costs have not gone down at all. And by the way, Billy, before you speak, we need you to take the podium
Oh, I'm sorry.
and say who you are and where you live. Okay. But is that what you were going to speak in the, all right, so we'll hold off on that. Does anyone else want to speak directly to this issue? Okay. I'll close that portion of the meeting, and we can now, if it please the town council, we can take a vote if anyone will make such a motion.
Do you mind voting on them separately?
You vote, there would be one vote for ordinance 2022-02, all one thing.
All
Is
one
that
thing.
water? That includes
That's
water?
both.
I would like to move that we adopt the item 2022-02 as described,
Presented.
as presented.
Do we have, okay, we have a motion and a second, and do we have discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to say one more thing about it.
Go ahead, Larry.
Billy, I think you and I are talking about the same things. We were forced to do a lot of things at the beginning of the last term. We were forced because of an election situation, which was extremely expensive, ended up to be extremely expensive. And as far as staff, attorney, all this other stuff. And I'm not voting for it because I don't like the 2 cents, but as much as anything, just as a general principle, we shouldn't have had to do all that stuff, but we did. And it's cost us a lot of money. I know the garbage collection is tied up in it, but that ain't all of it.
Okay.
May I-
Go ahead,
Again,
Mary.
this is a 2-cent decrease in our tax rate.
Right, but the impact.
I understand,
Yeah,
because
that's a-
of,
yes.
but it is a decrease, not an increase in the tax rate.
It's a decrease in the rate, but it's an
Yes.
increase in the tax.
Yes, yes,
Yes.
It costs you, it's gonna cost most taxpayers
yes,
more.
more.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
right.
And we're paying for, really, we're paying for what the electric did at the beginning of the last term. The changes that came about because of that. It's expensive.
We're paying because the assessments have gone up, which we have no control over.
Larry, we took steps to truncate the prior arrangement with town council because of an increasing in expense. We blew through, prior council blew through the entire budget for legal in the last 6 months of the term before my election, Mary's election, and so on and so forth. We put a stop to that. Okay, that stop means our new town council counselor, who has been very reasonable and responsive and helpful, is at a reasonable rate, very close to what we were originally paying a couple of years ago. So there are a whole host of other things that cost more now than they did several years ago. And as things move through time, that's going to continue to happen. So we do the best we can with the information set that we have. But I respect your opinion.
Thank you.
Well, I don't wanna push any more buttons, but it's costing us more. And we're getting more. I'm not saying, but we are getting more, but it's costing us a lot more. Maybe it's not on the attorney's side.
Right, right.
It is not.
It is not.
But it's on the other side. We've got more people working full-time in this office than we've ever had. And not saying that's bad, but it happened because, well, we panicked. We didn't know what to do. It's neither here nor there. I mean, we lost our administrator and then bingo.
Well, we're getting things done,
Yeah.
which is a good thing. All right, so I'll close the discussion. No one has offered an amendment to the motion, so go ahead and take a vote. Marjorie?
I don't like that they're together.
Yeah, I don't understand that. I really don't.
Come
I mean,
back to
I hate to not vote for a water increase because I know that's significant, but if that's the way y'all want to do it, then that's,
Yes.
that's fine.
Marjorie votes yes. Larry?
No.
Bill?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Mayor votes yes. Motion passes. Thank you. Margie voted yes. Larry voted no. Everyone else voted yes. Okay. Thank you very much. Now we can move into the general public comment period, and we have only one person who signed up, and that is William Mayo. That'd be nice. Then we can get you on the recording.
My name is William Mayo. I live at 320 Rappahannock Avenue. And this is just general knowledge. I'd like to know, what are we gonna do with the old town council building? It's sitting there. It's costing us how much this a year for?
36.
36,000 in 10 years. That's $360,000. I mean, we looking for the forward, we look for the future, for the well, we look for the future of everything else. That building is sitting there, ought to come down, put a parking lot, put something up there.
Billy, may I respond?
Mayor, can I speak to that?
Okay, Billy, there is a plan to deal with that. And the initial plan was to try to sell it. The offer that we had initially was a bit on the low side, particularly considering other buildings that are for sale in the same area. Like, I don't have to tell you, right next door. Okay, so we had suggested that Garth follow up on getting an appraisal from a commercial appraiser that could give us a value for that building and the land and the parking lot, so that when we sell it, we get a fair price. And that's what Garth has been working on. Once that building is sold and we have the 2 audits that we're still out of pocket for, we have 2 more years of audit, we can then finance the purchase of this building, use the rent from the rental side to cover the mortgage. It is cash neutral at that point. Until that time, yes, we are bleeding some cash right now, and that's too bad. It's what it is, but we, as a group, decided that old building, although we tried to keep it going, there was just too much to fix at this point. It's internal. We'd rather put the money into something that's more functional, has nice air conditioning, and so on and so forth.
Yes, thank
So
you.
it's long term.
It was a sick building, and we needed, if for no other reason, for the health of our staff to move into another building. I understand that Garth wants to make a comment.
We have contacted an appraiser. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. We have contacted a commercial appraiser to have them come and appraise the building so that we can put it on the market. We're not sitting on our hands.
Thanks. Yeah.
But that's a good question.
It is a good question. Everything seems to always take more time than you want it to. Nevertheless, we are moving forward, but thank you very much for asking, Billy.
And I would say or suggest that, to Larry's point, Billy, that's where an extra 1% or 1 cent tax could be found if we didn't have to pay the lease fee on this place. Okay, so we're a little stuck right now, but we're going to work our way out of this rut. Okay,
It's good.
By raising taxes.
unfortunately,
Yeah.
Just like every place else.
Not really.
yeah, on a percentage, it's not bad, considering everything else that's going on.
Red tax, we have looked for other ways, I will say that, but,
Well, we are always,
But the place you have to go, whether you're Middlesex County or Urbanna, is the homeowners.
and
I get tired of it. Year after year, I cover the county, and they always go to the homeowners.
Well, I will tell you, nobody is more tired of it or in peril of it than I am. So that you understand.
I believe you. You've
Okay.
always been sensitive to that,
I am.
Madam Mayor.
Thank you. So, okay, that ends our general comment period. And I believe we've already made our public response as well.
And so, Madam Mayor, I think we need to go back to item number 6. Open and close the public hearing on the budget.
Okay. So now we have been, yes, let's open the public hearing on the budget.
And I don't think there's anyone signed up.
I don't have anything in front of me.
I looked.
All right. Is that you, Bill?
That, yes.
Mm-hmm.
How do we scroll that up? Do I need to? This budget has been published. I don't have the old numbers in front of me, but as we discussed, the real estate taxes are going up about $24,000 over the last budget. The numbers that are in this proposal, a lot of them are sort of hardwired in that we know what the rent of this property is. We know,
That is the old
There we go.
folders I
Numbers there.
brought with me.
yeah, so the old one was, yeah. The old adopted budget was 263 and it's now 290. So it's, what is that, $27,000. The real estate taxes were going from 253 to 277 is the difference there. These are the other sources of income. Do I need to go through these individually or just in the group? Total income from taxes is $290,800. Then sales taxes, lodging taxes, meals taxes, the other ones listed there amount to $247,950 for a total tax income of $538,750. And as Steve was pointing out, these are guesstimates based on our best assumptions. The budget was started in March before inflationary pressures hit. The real estate, or I'm sorry, the meals taxes, yes, we've lost a restaurant, but there's another restaurant going in, and surprisingly, the other restaurants have picked up on some of the business. And so our assumption is that it's not going to be as much of a hit as we thought it was going to be. We're in a spot where the current is about $130,000 for this year that we have received through May. And we budgeted for 120 as that comes down. You can see how these other things will go up.
The magic screen is not so magic.
You need sticky on your fingers.
Yeah, you do.
Meals tax. We budgeted for 120, okay? And like I said, we're already at 130 so far for this year. So we are anticipating, whoa, there. Any questions?
Yeah. Just do the summary, please.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, you go.
The scroll
Yeah,
bar
Jim.
works,
Yeah.
yeah.
Over to
Sign
you,
him
Jim.
up.
Judy found this.
Sign him up.
Make it a little bigger.
I can't tell.
It works well
Yeah,
on
truly
TV.
you're
Try
doing a
just
good
one
job,
hand.
Roy,
Try one
considering.
hand
Martha's gonna come do it.
Maybe
Uh-oh,
Martha's
magic-
got magic fingers.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, you gotta
Okay.
pull them apart.
Oh.
There we go. All right,
There
now
you go.
come on.
Technology isn't wonderful.
All right. Go up a little bit more because now we're into expenses.
almost at the top here.
So these were,
Miscellaneous revenue items that are in there, you can see that with, we get litter control grants, we get funding for the fire programs that are essentially a pass-through. The trolley is being picked up by the Bethpage people, right? And so where, that's another place where costs have gone down because that was historically, I think, about $10,000. Going down to expenses.
Oh, no. I think it's too big.
Yeah.
If you can make
Well,
it,
we do have the date,
you
though.
make it small enough, we'll find that 1 cent. Two hands. There you go. She's got the touch. I know. Whoever wants to be dad.
And thank you for participating in our learning process.
Yes. By the way, the budget has Martha's fingerprints all over it.
That's right.
All right. We're bringing in, to help balance this budget, there are funds that were unappropriated from prior budgets that are being transferred in as well. The pool is obviously still in limbo, so that's not in the budget. As we get money, that's going to have to be added, but those lines are added so that we have space going forward for those things like memberships and donations and that sort of thing, as well as expenses that aren't going to show up on the other end because right now we're not spending anything on it, although we did engage Bay Design to do the site plan. And so that's one of the reasons why the pool reserve, is that in there? Or is that another part, Roy? That's farther down. The pool reserve is going to reflect the passage of bringing extra Tabor money into the pool reserve as well as a lesser, I think it's, was it 85 that's in there as it comes down? So it's still the same amount because we haven't paid Bay Design yet. So it's a combination of the Tabor fund money that we've brought in to help fund the pool as well as the reserve that was left over. Expenses, this is where we get into the different salaries. Town treasurer, 42,660, different things like FICA, health insurance for a total of 55,742.06. Town clerk, the clerk is split between water and town, and as a result, this is not the full salary, but this is the part that has been designated for the general fund. Town administrator is all in the general fund. These guys have their own deal, and so we have to cover FICA, but other things aren't in there, and that's why there aren't individual items in there for hospitalization and group life and that sort of thing.
They carry their own benefits.
Exactly. Professional services. We got the legal services for Andrea, the tech support for the computer, the audit that we are going to do annually at this point. It's not only a good idea, but when you have an outstanding loan, which we will have soon, it's required usually by the lender. Other administrator, the zoning administrator salary also gets split between water and town business, and you can see the different items there. Again, Roy takes care of his own health insurance, and so it's just the FICA that's the additional cost there. Accounting services, Steve does it for free, so that's why it's zero.
Yeah, right.
Repairs and maintenance, we've got items in there for anticipated costs for just the routine cost of doing business. The AS 400 service is a reference to an old computer system that we're now off of for accounting. that is associated with the county, and we now use the Edmunds, and that's
We replaced the
in
bright
there.
system with
Right.
Edmunds.
It's in there someplace at $6,000.
I have a question real quick, Bill.
Okay.
While you're on that. Did you say you had the accounting services? I'm having trouble reading it. Okay, that was 0. Is that the cost of the audit?
No, no, no.
It's audits
No.
on a separate line.
Yeah, audit is a separate line, and
And
it's,
what I was wondering is the contract that we set with the CPA that does the outside audit from Maryland. She covered, if I'm not, Garth, correct me if I'm wrong. She was supposed to cover 3 years for the price of one. Is that correct?
Yes,
He
Okay,
said yes.
so
yeah, and I think that was like $4,400, but this is
2,500.
basically the next
the
audit.
next year, assuming, okay. I got it.
Assuming, yes,
Okay,
This is the upcoming budget.
correct,
which is a really good deal for,
right. But you can see that there are items in there for anticipated costs, and those are based on what we know we've spent in the past, and a little fudge factor for inflation, but not a significant amount, because a lot of these numbers were put together before we started really getting whacked.
That's an official term, whacked.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Fudge factor, is that what you said?
That's also an official term.
Yeah. Exactly.
Look it up in your accounting books.
Again, these are just normal expenses: office supplies, food, housekeeping, janitorial, books and subscriptions. The different vehicles, the fuel costs, pool. We have the pool fund reserve that's listed there. But there's nothing, things in the pipeline, but no expenses. We don't know what they are. They'll have to be handled with a budget amendment when we start getting income in and outgo out.
This $12,000 was put in there in anticipation that the pool would be built and we would have to pay some salaries to have lifeguards and things
Right.
on site
And,
May
and
and June of next year.
right, and that was a carryover actually from the last budget, which it was in the last budget.
Right.
And so that money should be sitting out there because we never used it because the pool didn't open this year.
But we are anticipating that next year we will have a pool.
Right. All right, Oyster Fest. You can see Visitor Center has their own expenses, with their wages for part-time people, repair and maintenance for those facilities, phone service, purchasing stuff to resell, and in the income side, the anticipated sale of those items was in there.
And the painting of the visitor center or the museum has been completed, and we transferred the cigarette tax money into the
Historic Trust Fund.
the historic fund, and that's what paid the
Right.
super.
paid for the.
Yeah, that was,
Yep, that
It
was
went
good.
by really quick, but, there's Christmas decorations up there. Are we gonna actually participate in, with money to get the town decorated? Is that what that is, or is that for
That was in there. I can't remember what the amount is. Do you,
just the page just before?
Bears.
I don't see,
I
you
think it's
gotta go
farther
back
up.
Christmas decorations.
Yeah, I see. Bottom half of the page.
July 4th is 13,000. Christmas decorations, $1,000.
Yeah.
So that's what we have to, if they come to us to,
Right,
$1,000 is what we would be able to offer.
right,
Okay.
And by
exactly.
the way, last year, the Christmas decorations on Town Hall were provided by our town treasurer personally, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
in the museum
Museum and the streets and Blue Water Trail.
in case there were expenses. These are anticipated expenses if you need money to, pay Dan Steed for his gas or whoever took you out, then, we've got funds that we can do that.
It cost $1,000, didn't it, Dan?
Great gas, I don't know, it probably does.
It's $1,000 boat ride.
I know. Gas is now.
Yeah.
It's only 997.
Yeah, okay, I got it.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
You don't wanna
I
use
mean,
it all at
but
once.
what you have to remember is that with any of these budgets, these are anticipated costs based on what we spent in the past. And we may not spend that money, which then leaves us open to have money for something else. And you can't have a crystal ball and know exactly everything that's right. But the goal is to come up with something that makes sense, anticipating that it's going to have to change.
And some of those
This
items
is
are new.
this is a template, and it really reflects what we think the money is going to be coming in, and reasonable places we think it will go out.
What's a little awkward about the process as well is we know we had some surpluses in the last couple of years. We just don't have an audit report that says exactly
Right.
how much that is.
And
So
and
it's there. We know a good portion of it's there, but we'd like to have
We're
that
still-
pinned down.
We're still waiting to get that
Yeah,
audit
we're still
report
waiting.
back.
Yeah, you should have it soon.
and the audit also is going to uncover things that we know we said we were going to do. We appropriated funds for it, and then they never got spent.
Right.
But that's better than having spent too much.
Yes, it is.
And then the social events, the second Saturdays, the farmers market, those kinds of things. The hope is that they will be self-sustaining, and that revenues from the sales taxes or food taxes will generate the income to pay for what it costs to hold them. But this is just the breakdown of money in, money out.
We also have donors paying for
Right.
most of that.
Second Saturdays is completely funded. The money you see there is from sponsorships, and there's some of you folks in here that have
Right.
sponsored our event, so thank you.
These three items don't really involve town money. They're only in there so that we can keep track of it. It's very difficult if we're writing checks
Right,
and
without a line item.
don't have separate accounts for things.
Right.
So this just lets us really keep track for record.
We need a line item,
Right.
even though it's a pass-through.
It's a holding place.
Like this before,
Right.
but it just makes it easier to see how each one of those events is doing.
Yes.
And then marina revenue.
Yeah.
Right. And,
It's there.
whoa,
You just lost it.
Here it is.
There it is.
something that's in there at the very bottom is $52,500. That's balanced on the expense side. That was put in there as a net zero if we need the money to do the project at the end of Virginia Street. That's predominantly what that's for, but also improvements to the marina. And they're going to have to be a short-term loan that we can get reimbursement and big grant reimbursement for some of it.
Right.
But we still have to have it to pay for it in the first place.
Correct.
Right. The big grant is a reimbursement grant. We have to do the outlay first, and then they pay us back.
And that short-term borrowing that we are anticipating will allow us not to have to rob current cash in order to
Right.
go ahead and do the construction.
Exactly.
And by the way, the big grant, that's not talking about the size of it, that's boat infrastructure grant.
Grant. Exactly.
It's funded by gas taxes, marina tax.
Would you go back up, Roy? I'm curious about the DMV select, and I wanted to see the beginning of it. So
Now, in the case of DMV Select, we're anticipating that that's gonna be a net loss for the year and that it
Yeah.
will start to make money. But right now, it is not making money. It's just a service that should draw people into town and that should be a net benefit over time. And other places where it is done, it has been a generator of, at least it has been able to pay for itself. And because it makes Urbana a destination for something else, that was what the council decided, was that it was a thing to go into, knowing that it was gonna have some startup time, and that's what's reflected in this budget.
Right, we went into it with the expectation that it could take 2 years before it's,
Do we have any idea how much of a loss, a net loss we're anticipating it would be?
Yeah, it's about 45,000.
Of loss?
Yeah, I think that's what we're saying. Isn't that correct? 45, 35, something like
I
that?
think that's the expense, but I don't think that's with the income.
Expense is gonna be
Right, right.
It says revenue is 10.
So that would be 35, loss of 35?
okay, quite,
might generate $10,000. So it'd be like a
35,000.
$35,000.
we're funding from
Okay,
Previous years.
Right.
it's a lot.
again, we put this in all by itself so that we could keep track of it.
Yeah.
I mean, because if you scatter that across the rest of the budget, you don't know how you're doing. And Mary has a good point. We don't want to be doing this forever
No,
at a
at a loss.
at a
substantial
loss.
cost.
Right.
So you
That's a
have
substantial
group medical
loss.
is $8,000 for the employee in there, $8,800?
Probably.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
like
probably.
$800 a month,
So
For Maribel to have
Yes,
health insurance,
health insurance, it's $8,000.
probably.
a year.
I have a question, which is the indicators that we have at the moment, the data on the number of transactions that Maribel is processing, is that increasing, suggesting an increase in revenue is potentially there or not? Do you know?
I don't have the numbers on what her activities have been. Garth gets a report on that. And we haven't gotten anything from DMV, have we yet?
As far as money or,
Yeah, as far as money.
yeah, I have a folder out there for deposit. It's went up a little bit because now they're funneling in, titling and, like dealer titling and stuff.
Yeah.
So she's starting, now that we're up and going.
Yeah, we had a target rate of like 400 transactions a week or something like that.
So now they're starting to give her some of this titling and that.
Yeah.
So she had some increases this past month because of them sending in the titling.
Yeah.
Do
Maybe.
we have any idea the ratio of walk-ins? In other words, people who actually come into town, which is part of what we were hoping, is it would bring traffic, right? Versus online transactions, people who don't come into town?
It's by a
Can I speak to that?
Yeah, please do.
Go ahead, Garth.
70% of the customer base for DMV is walk-in.
Okay,
And she's voluntarily taken that on, even though DMV had suggested that we do this by appointment only. Y'all are having a conversation. We're not having a meeting. And this thing, council voted to start this thing, and we're not even giving it an opportunity to expand. Martha and Michelle are still in training so that they can assist with those. Michelle sat in training for pretty much all day today and has done so at least once a week for the past several weeks. So, I think a lot of the conversation that we're having here is a little bit premature.
Well, I think it's just that we don't have
we just want to
the
know.
information that you have,
We just
and
wanna
we'd like to know what information you have.
Right, and we are trying to
Reasonable question.
explain it to the citizens who are here trying to understand it as
But-
well.
Yeah, but thank you for your help.
Right.
Yeah, thank
the,
you.
The bottom line is that we knew going into it that there was going to be a period where it was going to have to be funded by us with the anticipation that the business would at some point make it a net gain for the town, and it would be a benefit because of more people coming into town.
Exactly.
So it is performing as we expected it to.
Right. Okay, that's the DMB. Now we get into the water fund. And that's anticipated sales of $320,000. And that's based on the 8.5% increase. And then the anticipated salaries and wages, $50,000. The FICA, the maintenance, chemicals and supplies, the paying our service operators to run the facility, funding for anticipated costs for repairs. Because if you're paying attention, you see that there's water lanes that are breaking all the time. And that's the goal in the future, is to replace those things.
And for those of you who are probably not familiar, not only do we have to pay for water breaks periodically, probably more often than we would like, but we're still dealing with old pipes in the ground. But we also have the SCADA system and the CAMSTRUP support. These are all technical parts of the
Right.
water system that have to be kept up and paid for.
They're emergency backup systems, so when a pump goes down, we can switch to the other well, or people are notified that there's a problem.
Mhm.
That's right.
prior 9 months.
That's right.
The lines are all patches now,
Patches on patches.
relatively new patches.
So the net, what is the net flow from the marina anticipated to be? If you, I guess,
Are we at the marina right now?
That was way back.
It was back.
well, I
there.
know, but in the summary,
Uh,
I mean, I don't care where you go, but,
yeah,
okay.
revenue
so-
over,
For expenses. There it is.
Upton's Point.
the way we put it together.
Yeah, it's
It's
even,
a
Stephen.
net
I see.
zero.
Net zero.
I see. Because of the funding. yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
Mhm.
right.
But
exactly.
Truthfully, we're actually making money
Right.
on there to the tune of about, what, 40,000 a year, 30,000 a year, something like that.
Give or take.
We paid for the boat ramp out of
Yeah, but that's,
existing,
you're not going to
Income.
do that every year, though. Yeah. I get you. I got you.
Right, but it does provide a source for the funds to, do improvements to the docks and those sorts of things.
Yeah, no, I get it. I get it.
Yeah. And if it becomes a significant generator of income, then, maybe we can start using it as a source to give Larry his penny or
That's not good.
Set
Probably
up the
not.
Larry,
It's not me.
Do a
it's
budget
the
amendment?
homeowners.
No, I understand.
the Larry tuning reserve, reverse reserve.
Okay.
All right, so the budget, the goal of this exercise is to end up with expenses and revenue that are gonna balance to zero. If you were really meticulous, I guess you could build it so that you'd have some transfer of some predetermined amount or hopeful amount into the reserve, but that's not the way this is put together. So the bottom line is, total budget of revenues is $1,176,000 and $176,162, and expenses of the same.
Okay. Thank you, Bill. Okay. Now, we are not anticipating taking a vote on that tonight. That's
We
simple.
cannot.
Nope. We have to have another hearing. All right, so,
May I ask a question to the attorney?
yes.
Normally, over the years, when I've covered these things, the rate is always the last thing that's approved.
I'm sorry, the rate.
The rates, particularly if you're raising taxes, the rate is the last thing that's approved. I mean, you pretty much have to, I'm gonna vote against it, but we pretty much have to, pretty much have to approve this because the rate has already been determined. But I have never seen a meeting, a budget meeting like this where the rate is approved before the budget is approved.
Are you asking whether that's legal?
Yeah, I mean,
It is. It is.
why would we, well, I guess it's legal, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't,
I mean,
It's kind of hard to say.
it
generally,
would seem to me that the taxpayers would want to come to talk about the rate more than the budget.
council could have chosen not to vote on the rate this evening.
Yeah,
It was not required,
okay,
so you could have waited. It's discretionary.
yeah.
Building this template, the budget template, is like building a house with bricks. And a key brick is, in each case, the water rate and the rate of taxes.
You could have taken one brick out by just taking $11,500 out, 1 penny.
Absolutely.
You could have done it. I mean, I can probably do it right now, but
Well-
you can't. I wasn't asking for much. Really, it was a token thing for the taxpayers
Well,
of the town.
I didn't
Just a token thing. But you all had it in your mind what you're going to do as soon as this process started. I think.
It may seem that way, but we've been through a number of drafts, Larry, in order to get to this point. And so I'm sorry that you see it that way, but you're perfectly entitled to. I can understand.
Well, when I brought it up last time, I was also brought up to a point of order. This is not the time to do it. Well, when is the time to do it? I mean, I feel like we ought to be able to find a way to lower the tax rate for the citizens, but we can't now.
I can tell you that we ran it through at 19, 20, and 21 cents. And at 19, we were going to have a shortfall. And 20 might have been a maybe, and you could have gotten your penny. But we didn't want to put something out there that we knew was more of a risk.
Our number, that's fine.
Okay,
It's what it is.
it is. Thank you very much. Okay,
Is the public hearing closed on the budget?
I move to close public hearing now. Thank you. Now we are on to matters of town council, and I would like to hear the town administrator's report. Garth? Okay.
Okay. The farmer's market is going to be held this Saturday, June 11th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. and is being held in the town green again this month. And as I understand, there are currently 19 vendors scheduled to be there. The July Farmers Market will be held at Tabor Park and is going to have added activities such as a petting zoo, laser tag, and other events. Second Saturdays, this event is scheduled this Saturday, June 11th from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. And it will be held at the town green and also across the street in the Southside Sentinel parking lot, where food truck and the beer tasting will take place, and the band is over there. Margie, do you have anything you want to add to that?
We have Sarah Kimball has worked out to where we lost a food truck from the event, and she is opening the retail side. She'll spill out onto the sidewalk. So there will be something different at second Saturday.
Good.
I have a question. Madam Mayor, may I ask a question?
Go ahead.
As we're inviting meals vendors and so on and so forth into town, what mechanism do we have in place to collect sales tax and meals tax from those vendors? What about subsequent? I mean, what you're doing is you're inviting vendors into town, essentially, to compete with restaurants.
Nobody's, Steve,
I-
I'm sorry.
I-
Let me
I-
interrupt,
man.
because this is not competing with anyone. Every single person was talked to, including Sarah Kimball,
I'm-
and had no issues with this, so there is no competition
I
at all.
I
It's not taking from the restaurants.
I do wish to speak, and I do wish not to be shouted down. Thank you very much. My point is, if we have vendors serving meals in the town of Urbana, that's a revenue stream, okay? Now, if we're not collecting the revenue stream, I would like to know that. If that is our business plan, not to have any revenue from this, that is something I'd like to know as a council person. I understand that this is a good thing. It's a warm fuzzy. But I'd also like to know, and if it's not competing, then it shouldn't be a problem collecting taxes from the vendor. Okay? And I'm not scolding anybody. I'm looking at you, but I'm not finding fault with you. I would just like to know, on behalf of the taxpayers, if we have all this energy and wonderful, wonderful things going on, how are we measuring its financial success and contribution to the town?
Okay.
I'm just saying.
I'd like to address this at least partially, that this event it is a volunteer-driven event, and the purpose of it was to have an event in town which brought people into town, which theoretically will benefit everybody because it makes us a destination for at least a day. And the idea is that it is to spill out into the other businesses in the town. This is the first year that we've done it, and it has grown somewhat organically. We have run into some unexpected complications, which we will use this first season of doing it to iron out.
Kind of more level, keep, whatever you want to call it, leveled out.
Okay.
But this wasn't a money-making venture for the town when we first did this, and Garth brought this from the very beginning, that it wasn't a money-making venture, and that these people were being invited here, they weren't being charged to come set up, just to bring things to our town, give something for everybody sitting in this room, something to do on a Saturday evening. It wasn't try to get $18 from a food truck because they sold something. That's not what this was about. This was about bringing people from, not just the town, the county. I mean, we can't just be all about Urbana. This is about everybody. And there's people all the way to Deltaville that have that sponsorship money that you see on that line item came from Deltaville to sponsor this event.
So basically, we are in the
Madam Mayor.
post-COVID period where we're trying to come back alive. And that was really the idea. Go ahead, Mary.
Well, I just want to get back to it. I can understand waiving the taxes for the food trucks if you were also waiving meals tax during that same period of time for the businesses in town. To me, that doesn't seem fair, and that doesn't seem, I mean, I don't think the businesses object to having the food trucks here, but if the businesses in town are having to pay meals tax during the event, and the food trucks are not having to pay meals tax,
It's not a level playing field.
maybe they're okay with that, but I don't know why they would be.
Okay, well, those are good points that we need to take up in the future. But I think right now, we are in the middle of the town administrator's report. And Martha, if you will make a note to put this on further agenda so that we can revisit this, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
Let me just comment about that before we move on. This is a work in progress. Council voted to approve it as it was presented, and it's being put forth just as it was presented. And we've had one event. We've had one food truck, and we've got several this time. The event has taken on big time in popularity, but it's a work in progress. And as we go along, just like as it should be, is that as we learn, then we make changes for the better. but we've only had one vent.
No, your comments are perfectly valid, and I agree with you. I would just like to point out that at some point, at some level, we have to take into consideration that, we have brick and mortar stores that have been here for years, that are very loyal in paying their meals tax. And, let's think about this for in the future, with future meetings to see whether that's is that really truly fair to them?
Right, and we have noted that. Thank you. Okay, anything else, Garth?
And Mayor, I agree with everything that he's saying. I just think we need to take into consideration we've had one event, and I'm really pleased with the success of this thing and how it's taken on, and it can't do anything but benefit the town. So, but Steve, your comments are well taken, and we'll have another post-incident review, just like we did after the first one, to discuss what we've done right, what needs to change, and we should be doing that at all of these things. So I agree with you.
Yeah, I'd just say that if we had even some kind of report as to what the sales happen to be, then that gives you a benchmark to work with, so that you could say, hey, look, we had $5,000 in sales from this one food vendor, or, whatever. We're just, shooting from the hip right now. So,
I-
all right.
Thank you.
I hear you.
All right.
All right, let's cut
Thank
the
you.
comments now and let Garth finish his report.
All right.
All right. The Urbanna Creek Waterfront Committee met last Friday, June 3rd, to discuss possible improvements to the marina and Urbanna Creek projects. I thought it was a good meeting and a lot of positive discussion, and we will be coming forward to council with a recommendation to place 4 to 6 mooring balls in the creek across from the marina to rent out to transient boaters. The Blue Water Trail that Larry and Dan Sneed and Roy have been working on, they went out and identified the mapping coordinates. And Larry, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's like 23 locations that you found so far on the creek that we're bringing forward. And the next step is to work with the Middle Peninsula Planning Association to get on their website and bring this project forward. And we'll be coming to council with that. I'll be meeting with the sheriff's office next week to discuss safety concerns as we move forward with the project at the Virginia Street pier location down at the end of Virginia Street. And there was discussion of moving the fence to the property to reflect the town's property line. And our next meeting is scheduled for July 8th at 11 a.m. Audits, we have received all of the audits for 2019, 20, and 21. We still have some questions regarding at least 19 and 20, and I believe 21 as well, showing unreconciled differences, which in a conversation that we had with the auditor previously were supposed to be corrected. And so we'll be meeting with her in a telephone meeting next week to try to get this straightened out. Independence Day celebration is scheduled for Friday, July 1st from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. And we've been working on preparations for this. We're following the same basic format, which is the fire department will be doing the food. Kevin Gentry and Wayne will be doing the DJing. We'll have a boat parade. And then the grand finale will be our fireworks. The DMV Select Grand Opening is scheduled for Tuesday, June 28th at 10 a.m. at the Town Hall. The DMV Commissioner will be in attendance along with the Mayor, Council, DMV staff, town staff, and we will be inviting state elected officials and county officials as well. The Veterans Banner dedication is scheduled for Friday, June 24th at 5 p.m. at the Town Green. And Michelle, I want to thank you for spearheading that project. She ended up having to turn some people away because we didn't have enough poles. We've done 41 banners for our vets in the community. Michelle, you have anything you want to add to that?
Thank you. Anything more, Garth?
That concludes my report, Mayor.
Thank you, Garth. Okay, Planning Commission.
We'll not have a planning commission report this time. Our meeting is next Tuesday, so the previous report stands. One announcement to put on your calendars is that we have a town hall scheduled for July 12th at, I believe, at 6 p.m. With Rebecca Rowe who is the director of Virginia Main Street. And she will be here present with us. We're still working out the particulars, including a location. But we invite you all to come, and I hope that it will be an interesting event for anybody who wants to come. So put it on your calendars. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that last one was really good. So, okay, Pool Committee.
Pool Committee, the only thing, as I mentioned before, we have engaged Bay Design to do the site work. Andrea's working on the contracts and trying to get it set up so that we can establish a method of providing funding.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Kayak Trail.
Well, I think Gar summed it up pretty well. We're moving ahead on it. I've sent a copy out for editing, and people are sending it back, and I really appreciate that. Anything you find we need to clean up. I'm collecting photographs at this point for each site. And so if you know of anybody that's got photographs, old photographs along the waterfront, let me know. Pat Marshall is going to allow me to go in and look at Doc Marshall's old albums, and we'll get some of that.
That is cool.
And, you know, we can do as many as 200 photographs, and I haven't got anywhere near anything like that. But the next thing is to clean up the copy clean up the copy, and then I need to get the cut lines written and tie all this into each site. But I think, you know, if I can find a couple of days, we can have this done by the end of June.
Yeah.
Great.
You've got a wonderful start on it.
Yeah, well, the hard part's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Larry.
I want to thank Dan Sneed for burning his gas. I hope it's not $1,000 we got.
I'll fill up tomorrow.
Okay. But we had a real good time, didn't we, Roy?
Very informative.
Yeah.
Very good.
Larry, I have a question for you.
Sure.
On item 23, down at the site of J.W. Hurley and Son Seafood.
Yeah.
And, you know, I did the editing from a grammatical, viewpoint. And I was scanning over this, and I thought to myself, I don't think you've made any mention, unless I've missed it, of the Hurley Hotel, which is one of the most picturesque structures located on that. We have photographs and pictures of that.
Absolutely.
And is there a mention of that somewhere in here?
Should be.
Could you please consider adding that?
I
Because
certainly will.
yeah, that would be
Got all kinds of photographs too.
yeah, exactly.
I thought
Where
it
was
was.
it?
I thought it was in there, but it
No.
may not be.
23. It should be in 23. Where is it?
Is it?
Oh, it's open Hurley's Hotel and Restaurant. Okay, I got you.
Hurley
Okay.
Hotel.
So he's
Okay.
got it.
Okay, I got you.
Thank you, Steve.
I'm sorry,
Absolutely,
I scanned it and I just
didn't see it. That's all right.
didn't see much of a,
It's a lot of words.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I can miss things, it's common sense things a lot of times, I forget.
Well, we've got, what, about
Oh, yeah.
8 pages of single-spaced words here, so that's a lot of words. A lot of work on Larry's part. Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, now we've got action items. The first one is the land boundary adjustment. Okay.
You want me to speak to that?
I can do it, Garth, and then you can just jump in, since I'm here. There is a discussion, or have been discussions about voluntarily adjusting, the boundary between Middlesex County and the town of Urbana. State law kind of lays out a process, and the first step is for both the town and the county to approve an agreement. And it basically just says, this is where the new line's gonna be, we're each gonna pay for our own costs. We'll do what's necessary to finalize this. And so tonight, we're asking for your authorization for staff to go to the Middlesex Board of Supervisors and formally approach them. Garth, do you want to add anything?
Nope, that's it. We're not prepared to vote on the agreement because we hear what,
Just gonna vote on permission to take the first step.
well, I'd make a motion, if I may, Madam Mayor,
Yes, go ahead.
to approve staff going forward and approaching the county with regards to agenda item 10A, land boundary adjustments.
Okay, do we
I
have a
second it.
Okay, motion's made and second. Any further discussions up here? Okay, take a vote. Larry?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Mary? Steve? Mayor votes yes, and note that Marjorie Austin had to leave early. Okay, very good. Okay, so you have permission. Proposed
you.
Bristow Pavilion location. I know you've been waiting for that for a while.
okay, that at the last council meeting, council voted for Nancy Greenwood of UBI and I to draft a recommended location for pavilion to be built at Tabor Park and to come back to this meeting and make a recommendation for a location in the park to y'all. And in your package, you should have a diagram that shows the recommended location, which is adjacent to the old tennis courts. And you can see it because it's all brown. But anyway, this will be kind of butted up to them and facing Rappahannock Avenue and just to the left of that big tree there at the playground.
Okay, and go ahead. Okay.
Yeah, I don't understand the footprint because it's like 100 feet by 50. Okay, that,
30 by 40.
it's 30 by 40 within this plot.
Right.
Yeah, okay, 'cause-
The total perimeter is what you're seeing as a number.
Yeah, that's the lineal number.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
all right, okay. I
Okay,
gotcha.
so my question here is, and it looks like there's probably no reason it can't go there. And that was where we were going to move the pool to, but now the idea is to keep the pool in the same place as it exists. And since we're doing that,
Right, but the pool, when we were measuring for the new placement for the pool, it wasn't gonna go that far. It was
Right.
gonna be in the space of the old courts,
Yeah.
so.
So now
it-
it's,
It should be fine.
so it's still gonna be down here, which means that where we were gonna put the tennis courts and the pickleball courts, which was gonna be on top of where the pool is now going to be, it makes more sense that when we put in the hard surface courts, it'll be back in the same place, which I think is really good to have the
Yeah.
pavilion there,
Yeah,
right
I don't have
next
a
to
problem
where
with that, yeah.
the pickleball and the tennis courts should be.
Okay.
And the other question that I would have in mind is if there is if anything comes up that says maybe we can't put it there, do you have a secondary place picked out?
At,
No.
at this point, no. We're anticipating that they're going to put the pool where it was, and if that falls through, then I would suggest that we'll come back to council with an alternative measure because you got the playground where it is, and I agree with you, Mayor, that it's just logical to put, if we're going to put pickleball or tennis courts, it go back at that location because it's already got the gravel and the ground is already conditioned for that. In addition, we're going to have for the new pool, we're going to have space for 40 to 50 vehicles for a parking lot to hold that many cars. And that's going to be in the current parking space with the removal of the HRSD thing there.
Right.
So
The thing there, yes.
so Garth, we know that HRSD is going to remove that station? We do?
That's the plan.
Okay, I got you.
Yep.
So that's
Okay.
been down. The other point that I think you spoke to it too, Bill, is the core samples. What's the risk they come back and we can't put the pool where?
That
Anybody's guess. Okay.
according to the paddock pools, that they don't think that there's much risk.
I wouldn't think so. It's been there for 50 years.
Okay, so that's good. So,
And-
okay, one more question here. Is a timeline of building this, is it possible for it to go in before we start construction on the pool or before we do the hard surface courts? Or would it be in the way of heavy equipment if we built it first? I mean, is there a problem with the order in which these things are constructed?
I don't think so, but that's a question for we'll be
Hold on a second. What?
we'll be meeting with Paddock Pools, the contractor, and the architect and Bay Design within the next couple of weeks. And we can ask that question then.
Okay, well,
Um,
let's let Nancy say what she wants to say.
Okay, I didn't hear.
Okay, good.
With having to raise a lot of money now, and we had applied for a grant that we did not get. We just found out yesterday, so that's like, oh, well, we'll try something else. When we first started thinking about it, we were being very positive and hoping to have it up before Orchard Festival. No way.
Yeah.
So, that being said, we won't start on it until after Orchard Festival.
Okay, and we're planning on breaking ground for the pool in October, so it won't start until after we've started working on the pool.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, that makes sense.
Does that make sense to you, Garth?
Yeah.
Let me, if I may,
Well, let me hear from Billy first, okay?
Pavilion pictures, what color and everything, what it's gonna be, then you just gonna put 4x4s up.
No, they have given us a
Yeah,
very
we
nice
have-
drawing.
I don't have them with me right now, but it's a 30 by 40 with a 10 by 10 entrance. Everything's covered in vinyl, white vinyl, and the ceiling of the pavilion is, what's the right way to say say it, it's covered, it's closed off, so birds won't build in
It's
it.
enclosed, and you've got a cupola on the roof too.
And a cupola on the top.
It's very attractive.
You know, they're not in a historic district and not required to do, the due diligence that you typically do with a historic property. But have you shown this to any of the neighbors at all?
Well,
You
no,
know-
we haven't really gotten that far.
Okay, okay.
I mean, part of with the neighbors was just what we talked about when we were looking at it previously. We were trying to get it away from the neighbors as much as we could.
I
So if they
understand.
did have bands or when functions were going on, they weren't right on top of them.
Yeah, that's what I was.
We moved it away from the street.
Right.
Okay.
And we wanted to do the sculpting on it, like this building. I don't know what you call it. I call it sculpting.
Scalloped.
Scalloped. Yeah, like that, like pretty.
Can I ask another
pretty.
question, which is, and this is not related to the building per se, but the long-range plan for the beautification. Would you all consider, if your board is interested in, terminating their position or the tenure, would you all even consider turning over board control to a new board at some point so that you don't lose the advantage of the 501c3 structure, which could be used by other people?
Like the UBA.
Yeah, like we're thinking of the UBA possibly. Would you all consider that? You don't, and you don't need an
I mean,
answer.
No, we're not
But-
against it.
but-
It's
but
just
that-
like we don't have,
No, I
we
understand.
just don't have the interest in it.
Right, he's just
I
throwing out
understand.
an idea.
I'm
at this
throwing in
point.
an idea because we have businesses that are interested in rekindling the Urbanna Business Association,
Which does not
which
have a
has never,
501c3.
it's never had a charter, it's never had a constitution, and that makes it a little weak, okay? You've got the structure, if we could get the people to operate within the confines of that structure, the
Right.
thing maybe it has a little bit more life left in it.
I mean, the charter may need to be changed.
Well, the charter would have to be revised,
Right.
Yeah,
yeah.
there's some amendments.
But it's a lot
but
easier to,
you could
and
do it-
less expensive to
You could have the same.
maintain a 501c3 than to start a new one.
The same structure, but perhaps change the name to DBA, Doing Business as Urbana Business Association. And it's a paperwork at the SEC, but you retain the same profile otherwise.
No, I mean, I would say, no, we're not against doing that.
Okay, so you'd consider that.
Yes.
Would
I'm
you
saying
please?
Yes, and I don't have everybody here
Well,
to
it-
vote
it
for
kinda
but
de-
I will take that back to the board.
Yeah,
see
that's
how
all,
they
that's
feel,
all I'm
okay?
asking is,
And that's-
I'll be
we're
glad
we're
to.
trying to think of an advantage here that might play out in the future,
For the town.
Sure.
understanding that y'all are,
Okay,
okay.
we've gotten there. The question's been asked. You're going to consider it.
Yes.
Good enough. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, anything else that we need to discuss?
Yeah,
Wait a minute, are y'all
Go
gonna
ahead.
take a
Oh, yes,
vote?
Larry, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Larry.
not to throw a monkey wrench in this, and I'm really not. But I like the idea of that second location that you need to think about. And there are two reasons you need to think about it. One, I think a better location is a marina. But two, you gotta raise $100,000. If you don't raise $100,000, if you do raise $100,000, put it right there. But if you don't raise it, and you need 30,000 or something to that effect, there is a possibility through our big grant money down there that we could come in and come up with the 30,000 or 40,000 or 10 or whatever, and we could put it down there.
Marina.
We have a real need for something like that down there, but I'm just talking about a second option.
Garth and I had talked about a little bit of a second option, but I guess we're hoping for option number one, was moving it just a little closer to the road. If we needed, if the pool was gonna come out more, we could move it closer. The only issue, I guess, I have with it, one of the issues I have with it at the marina is that it wouldn't get as much use down there. And, our charter, is that the right word? Our charter, says that what the UBI does is for the residents of the town of Urbana. Now, I think when I think the marina, it'd be lots of boat people may be using it and things like that. But the reason we want to put it up is so that the residents of the town of Urbana have something to use.
I guess
for
all
various
I'm
reasons.
asking is keep an open mind. If we get to a point, you're just not gonna make the funding to do it, then and maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea for people, for them to look down there right now, see if it's even an option, you know? Because if it's not an option, it's not an option, but,
Everybody dig deep in
Here's-
their
yeah,
pockets
here's-
and see what they can give, and we'll see what we can do.
And I'd like to follow up on Larry's suggestion is that we've actually had people rent out space down at the marina or, for weddings and things like that. We're doing it all,
On the
kind of
deck.
doing it already. And it's, if you made a nicer venue down there, that would be another use for it. Please just keep an open mind.
Yeah, we've
just
got
as a second option.
Second
Right,
option.
Might
and-
come up because, I don't know how much money you can raise. Is this something, we're gonna vote on this now?
No.
We're not, okay.
Oh, I
Are
thought
we?
were
Voting on it
tonight.
We're
Yes.
voting, yes, okay.
I would think that we
You're right.
would. We
Well, we're
told-
not voting on moving it to the marina. We're
No,
just,
no, 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 no.
We
We're
are
on
voting-
that we can put it in the park
Yeah,
right now, right?
Mhm.
Because before
that
we
could
start
be
getting
agreed-
money from people, I don't
Second,
wanna ask
just-
for something and
Just
then.
a second option, that's all.
Okay.
And that could be accomplished by simply an amendment, couldn't it?
Well, it's
To agree to amend the location?
fairly general. The sample
It is fairly general, but I-
just says made to allow a portion
amended.
of
It could just be amended.
property, and in
Right.
this particular thing, sample motion, it does not
Right.
specify
Where it
which
is.
piece of property.
okay.
Okay.
So who
So we're
wants to
make-
make the motion?
I would like to make the motion to allow a portion of property belonging to town be set aside to build a 30 by 40-foot
Wait a
pavilion.
minute. I would like the motion to say in Tabor Park.
That's what I thought.
Please.
I don't have a problem.
Jeez.
Uh-huh.
As option A.
Well, it says, the
Option
written
of
one
Tabor.
says a pavilion to be built at Tabor Park.
Yeah.
We
So
can
why
amend
don't
it.
you-
If they don't make the money and they come in, well, we got 40,000, we need 60.
Or if y'all
You know.
find extra money somewhere.
Yeah, well,
Steve?
Okay,
You
so
never
I would,
know what you could come up with.
I would be glad to restate the
Stop,
motion.
stop. Would you please?
I will restate my
Why
motion.
don't you restate it as? it's
Motion
written?
is made to allow a portion of property at Tabor Park belonging to the town be set aside to build a 30 by 40-foot pavilion. Does it make sense?
Okay,
We all happy?
much happier.
Let's
Who wants to second
rock
that?
and roll.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Do we have further discussion? Let's vote before somebody does. Larry?
yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Yay! Okay. Good. Do we have any announcements? No announcements? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Discussion?
Yes, no.
Okay.
Yes.
Larry, Bill, Mary, Steve?
Yes, yes, yes.
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 Thank you very much. We are adjourned.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everybody.
Garth.
Garth, are you there? Garth?
Yes.
Hey, Garth?
Yes.